Hi there, this is Luise Heinzl. I'm the person you have blown away in the truest sense of the word. Welcome to my Q&A smashed tags video. I'm already pretty proud about this video intro. But you have really blown me away with your reactions to my smashed tags I have posted on Instagram, TikTok, and also here on YouTube as short videos. You guys are so crazy. You have absolutely made my whole month, if not my whole year. It's absolutely amazing how you reacted to this little technique. And I want to use this video to answer all of your questions. I went through all of the comments and I have made a pretty long list where I have, written down all your questions, and I want to try to answer them today, like a little bit strategically, while I'm creating these tags here. And I want to use this video also to celebrate this technique with you, because you seem to have really much fun with this. And if you have been a little bit scared when you have seen my videos, please don't be scared, okay? Take out your tags and just try this technique, okay? It's just so much fun. If you want to do this at home, then please make sure that you protect your work area. Around me here, I have put a box. Can you see this? This is just a packaging box. I have cut that open so that I I can't talk today. I'm so sorry. So that I can put that around my workspace here, and you can already tell how much of my ink has come to the box here. So this would be the amount of ink which would splatter around in my room if I wouldn't have this box here. To be honest, for my first videos, which I posted on social media, these little short videos you have seen, I haven't had this box. It was a catastrophe. So if you want to do this, set up something like this. Perhaps you also have another kind of splatter box which you usually use if you make splatters or so. Use that, okay? That is really helpful. So then this here is just some coffee dyed paper where I have put my tags on, and these are attached a little bit. I have used such a little glue mouse. Oh, I mean, that's the German word, Klebemaus. Is it in English as well, glue mouse? I don't know. So I just, you can take this and then you can do it like this, and then this gets sticky. But you can also remove this later. I've just put a little bit of this glue behind each of the tags so that they stay in place here, that they don't fly around while I'm doing this technique, which is, to be honest, a little bit aggressive, yes, but that's also a good therapy. And that was also something I've read very often under the videos, that you have said something like, I don't know what I'm watching here, but it's somehow magic. It looks a little bit therapeutic. And it really is. Some of you also have written, I don't know what it is, but I love it. That was a comment I've read very, very often. So let's go through the questions together and let's talk about what this is, how I do this, what I use for that. And I want to try to answer all of your questions you've had and which I now have on my little notepad here. So the first thing I want to go into is a comment I got from Jules. She said, I'm always surprised how distress colors you won't think go together do. And that is, for me, the most impressive thing I learned from this technique. And because of that, and to prove that, I want to go with a color combination suggestion by Martina. She suggested orange, green, purple, and gold. And I was like, what? Orange, green, purple, and gold. I have chosen these carved pumpkin, mowed lawn, I always say that wrong, mowed lawn and shaded lilac. But of course, if you have other oranges, greens or purples in your stash, please try that out. Yeah, don't be scared. This is really surprising when you take colors you usually won't take in a combination. Take them and try that out. In the most cases, I mean, it never disappointed me. I think in all of the cases where I have taken like weird color combinations, it worked and I got something really amazing in the end. So let's have these here on the side. And before I start, I want to talk about these tags because how is the name said? Oh my goodness, I have my phone here and I can't say the name. Jedediah, I'm hoping that I'm saying that right. You asked, I'm so sorry, what kind of tags are those? I'm using these tags here, the distress tags by Ranger and Tim Holtz. These are the number 8 ones. They are also available in other sizes, but I really like these for my junk journals because I can use these later as journaling cards. I mean, what are tags? Tags are like journaling cards as well, aren't they? And I'm mainly using these because they are made from the mixed media heavy stock. That's the name of the material these tags are made from. And this is really cool because this paper can handle a lot of wet mediums, and that is why I use these. I mean, there's a reason for this name, mixed media heavy stock. Yeah, it's made for mixed media projects, so that's the reason why I like to use these. Please use something which can handle a lot of wet mediums, because as you can see when we do this, there's a really like a puddle on the paper. And you want to have a paper which can handle that, and where the ink also like sits on the paper for a while, so that you then have the chance in the next step to blow it around. So then there was a question which came very often, and that was about the pens I have used for scribbling and writing in the first step of making these tags. Patty, Rebecca, Jen and Mariah and Suzanne and Karen asked about the pens and the crayons I've used. So what I used for scribbling on this tag, this golden pen here, is this. There's just an edding, normally made for glass, metal, plastic and paper. You can also use another color, obviously. This is just a black edding, but this here is the brand of the pen. I bought these on Amazon. And what you also can use, obviously, is any other kind of pen or pencil which you can use for scribbling. So in one of the other videos, I also used the distress crayons. These are water-soluble crayons. Karen, that was your question. When do we want to do this? You can do this like so, and then you can either smear that with your finger to blend that. That could also give a nice effect on such a tag, but they are also water soluble. But you can also, of course, for example, use something like this. This is one of the watercolor pencils by Ranger and Tim Holtz. And see, you can scribble with that as well. I mean, you can use anything which makes something like this, no matter if it's black or gold or whatever. Oh, I forgot one thing. Where's my... I'm so sorry. This is so hard for me to film because I only have this little space here in the box, and everything I need for this is, you know, outside of the box, and I can't see it. And I can't grab it because this box is, you know, it's just so small. That drives me a little bit crazy, but I'm trying my best to do this. You could also use the Posca pens. This white one I've also used for one of the little videos I've already posted. That would also be a possibility, but you can use whatever you want. Yeah, even these would work, like little, which have these little tips here, small, tiny tips. But there was also a question from Mariah. She asked, will the pens get destroyed? And she asked that because I did this with some of the pens. And if you want to do that and, you know, smash that, then of course you need to make sure that the pen can do that. This here and also these have this tip where you have to, I mean on the paper, but I will do it here now so that you can see what the tip does, where you have to do this first before you can use the pen. So this is made for doing that. Yeah, this tip is especially made for doing something like this, so that you can first shake it, then do this, and then the stuff will come out there and you are able to write with this. But please make sure if you want to hammer that to the paper that your tip can do this. That's for these, for this edding. For example, this edding can't do that because it's a different kind of pen. Yeah, but you can easily try that out. Take your finger and carefully press this, and then you can see if the pen can do that or not. The Posca pens can do that as well. Yeah, so you need to make sure that that they can do that. Otherwise, you will do this thing only one time. Yeah, because if you would do that with this pen, then you would smash it, and then the tip would probably disappear in the pen, and that is not what we want. So please, you know, pay attention to that. So let's perhaps first scribble with these here on this text so that I can put these away and go to the next question. What I like to do is take two different mediums and different pens, different colors also for the scribbling. And then you can just do whatever you want. I like when there are different thicknesses of what we get here, and of course you can choose the colors you want to have here and mediums which will then do different things in the next steps. This golden pen, for example, works like a resist. Can you see here the I of high? You can still see the gold because it's a resist for the oxide spray I've smashed on here. Compared to this, the crayon is water soluble, the watercolor pencil as well, so this will react a little different than this, and perhaps you want to have that in mind as well. So let's also do perhaps one here. I don't know what I'm doing here, but that is also something. Please just don't think about it, okay? Especially don't overthink this. Since we've just talked about the gold, let's go into another question from Carrie. She has asked what paint for the gold splatters. For that, I have used Tarnished Brass Distress Paint. This is already mixed with some water so that I can splatter this really easily. And I have used a lot on that tag where you have asked that question, Carrie, because this paint is also in the end like a resist. And I did it like so. I loaded up my brush pretty much after each splattering so that I can get really big splatters. And I'm using this kind of brush because that is for me the best splatter brush in the world. Shall we add here some of these as well? Why not? Perhaps like this. And the cool thing is when you let these dry now, then they work as a resist as well, because this is acrylic paint. Even if you mix that with water, it works like a resist, and that gives obviously really cool effects in the end when everything is finished and everything is dry. But obviously you need to let these dry now. If you want to have the resist effect, you need to let this dry or dry it with your heat tool. So then there have been a lot of questions about the ink I use to smash and also how I did these blobs here. So let's go into the questions from Greet, Shannon, Terry, Dana, Nicolina, Brian, and probably some more. If I don't mention your name here now, then I probably haven't seen your questions. I tried to really strategically go through the questions, but there have been so many like private messages and reactions to my stories on Instagram as well. So please excuse if I haven't mentioned your name and you have asked this one question as well. But the answer is you can use basically anything which can be soaked by a sponge. And I have used these finger sponges for making these blobs, because you can put your finger in here and then it's really sturdy on your finger. Here's this little sponge which you can then soak with your medium. That could be an oxide spray, a spray stain, or even something else. I will go into that in a second as well, because we found out something else, that you can also use something else than the sprays. But you could also use some watered down acrylic paint, for example, anything you can imagine, like watercolor or whatever you might have, which you can soak with a sponge. Doesn't necessarily have to be such a sponge. You could even take these, yeah, because these have this handle, and the sponge, I mean, where's the difference? It's just a little difference in size, but you could also take this and then, you know, hammer it on the paper like so. Or you could even take this other size of blending tool, you know these probably, then you would get really, really big splatters. Anything which is sponge, like a SpongeBob, could be used for that. You could even try like a kitchen sponge or so and then try to hammer that on. And then during one of my TikTok live streams, Janine asked a question which brought us into a totally different direction of this technique, and which brought another, in the truest sense of the word, dimension to this technique. Because she asked, is it possible that you use your oxide ink pads or ink pads for this technique? And my first reaction was, you could try that, but I'm assuming that you would get a totally different result and that it doesn't work so well. But then during that live stream, I tried Janine's suggestion and used the ink from the ink pad, or in that case from the oxide ink pad, and I was totally surprised about the result. This is what we got there, so please ignore this and that. But what we got here from the oxide ink pads is a really translucent look. Can you see that? That is really crazy, because when you do it with those, then this shape of the smash is there, and around that we have something translucent. So what I did was, I have taken my oxide ink pad, and I will do it here on this acrylic block because my media mat is covered up from my paper and my splatter box here, but you could do that on any surface you want. So I have done it like so, just put a little bit of ink on here, and when I saw this, the amount of ink, I was like, Janine, I think that can't work. But then I was really surprised, because I then added water, and now I'm just trying to let the sponge soak up all of this liquid medium here. And when I saw that, look how translucent that is. When I saw that in the live stream where I tried it for the first time, when Janine has suggested it, I was like, that can't work, and it will probably be not so visible and very, very light. Oh. Yep. See, that is funny. This is what I was expecting when she suggested it. Let's do that again, because if you have this is also a good example perhaps. If you get something like this and you think, that's too small, I can't really see it, just do the thing again. Just take your spray or your ink again. So let's perhaps add a little bit more water. Soak this up. Yeah, look. And I tried to hit the same spot. And you can see how intense this is. It is not the same opaque like the sprays, but that is really, really good. In that mentioned TikTok live stream, I then let that sit for a second because, you know, I was talking to Janine and it was like that was coming from the situation. And then we found out that we can let this sit for a few seconds and then take our blowing tool and blow that away, and then we get a totally different effect than here. I will show you that in a second, but we first need to wait a little bit. And while we are waiting, we can answer the question by Lori, because she has asked, what's the blowing tool? And this is just this thing which you normally use to blow alcohol ink. Yeah, you can press here, and then, can you see that in my hand where my skin is moving? That is a little bit scary. Can you see that? It blows air, and then, you know, that is how this thing works. I bought this, I think, at Simon Says Stamp or so. I'm not so sure, but you can find this there where you find the tools for alcohol ink. Yeah, it's just really handy. You could take a straw as well. So then we can, after we have let this sit for a while, blow this, and then you can see the magic which I learned from Janine. Can you see what happened here? This shape we had in the beginning, so the shape of this puddle from the beginning, you can still see the outline here. And then this, what you blow away, is really translucent, but you can still see this pattern from the beginning through it. Can you see that? These lines are from the, you know, the first one which we have let sit, and this translucent stuff here is that what we have blown away. And I find that really, really interesting, especially if you want to have the scribbling or whatever you did first here, like stenciling, scribbling or stamping or whatever, if you want to have that in the foreground and do that first perhaps, and then at this, then you can really like control the intensity by choosing either the ink pads or the sprays. I think that is really cool. And Janine, if you're watching, thank you very, very much for that idea, or yeah, that question which led to that idea. That is really, really cool. So then we can put this back here, and you can see here that didn't happen. Yeah, here where I have blown it away, we have these lines, but it's totally different than here. So then let's quickly dry these so that we can go on with the next step and also the next question. And no, I haven't forgotten my color combination. I've tried to get an order into these questions, but I'm realizing that it is really hard to answer the questions from my little note paper there on my phone while doing these tags at the same time. So I'm really hoping that these will not end in a catastrophe design-wise. But of course, I want to answer all of your questions, and you know, in a like logical order. I'm hoping that that will work here now. And since some of my little videos, especially the reels, went viral, thank you for that as well. There have been also many people who are new to my YouTube channel and who didn't know me before they watched the video or the videos. Because of that, there are some questions about the pastes and stamps and stencils, where you as my regular viewers probably already know the answer, but you know, I want to have this like a Q&A thing, and I want to be, of course, informative for the new people as well. So I will quickly go into the stamps and stencils and pastes I use, even if you probably already might know that if you are not new here. And if you are new here and found me through the reels, then thank you very much for being here and for subscribing to my channel. And to the people who are already always here, thank you for coming back, of course. I really, really appreciate your support and that you are here and doing these crazy things here with me. So Ron asked, where can I get stencils? All of the stencils you can see in my videos are by Stampers Anonymous and Tim Holtz. There's no exception. I used to have some stencils from other brands in the past, but in the meantime, I switched to only Stampers Anonymous and Tim Holtz. The reason is this is high quality. The designs are absolutely amazing. There are so many different designs available, and even if you use them pretty aggressively, they do what they shall do, and that is survive your process. I think this material is really, really great. I don't know what this exactly is, but it's just fabulous. And my stamps, because Demi asked, stamp link, question mark? All of my stamps are by Stampers Anonymous and Tim Holtz. Same reasons. Wonderful quality. I can't imagine a better quality than these stamps. And yeah, they are just great designs and I really, really love them. There was a question by Lynette. She asked, what kind of stamps are you using? So these are the cling mounted stamps. Stampers Anonymous has also clear stamps. You could use any kind of stamp you might have. You could also use like a wood mounted stamp. Is that the right word? You know what I mean? These where these wood blocks are and then the rubber is on the other side of the wood. But these are sticky and then you can stick them to an acrylic block and just stamp. And yeah, Stampers Anonymous. Best stamps and stencils in the entire universe. And this is also probably a good chance to give a really, 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 really huge shout out to Stampers Anonymous. Because I don't only use these stamps and stencils because of the good quality, but also because of the people behind this brand. Stampers Anonymous has given me so much support in the past few years that is just incredible. And I get goosebumps all over my body when I talk about that, because I've experienced so much love behind this brand. It's incredible. So if someone at Stampers Anonymous is watching, thank you so, so much for your support and for all the love you've given to me, to other people, and yeah, also this kind of connection you bring to the crafty people is really, really amazing, and I really appreciate that. And I think that is not normal. Do you know what I mean? Because when you have products on your table, I mean, what is this? This is a tool which I use for making my stuff here. And when you have these things in your hands and at the same time you have this connection to the people who made this, that is then for me more than a tool. It turns into something else, and that is really special. I find that really special. This looks absolutely terrible at the moment. Shall we just stamp over the whole thing? And yes, it's normal when you think I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing, and that until nearly the end, that is normal, I have the feeling. But trust the process. So then for the stencils, I have chosen these THS 143 and THS 181. But I think before we stencil through these, let's do something else, because then I can also show you this cool trick with I'm so sorry, that was my alarm. I'm so sorry. I need to stop this video in a second because I want to watch a live stream on TikTok. I'm so sorry. Then I can also show you this, what am I pointing at? This effect with the translucent paste on the oxide ink. Wait, let's do that. let's do that. That is a good chance to put this on here and then let it dry, and then we can later on go on. So let's first add more ink before we do this, okay? So that we can see the effect. But it really doesn't matter. You could also stencil now. Yeah, absolutely no problem with that. So let's first do the crazy color combination, which was suggested. So, and then we can also answer the question by Joanne. Is the splat you did after stenciling in a lighter color? And the question by Courtney, did you let the cracked pistachio dry before you did the black number stamp? So let's use this carved pumpkin. Let's then use a trick I learned from my friend Elise Klatschmon. She said, take this, put it on there and let the sponge soak like this, instead of spraying the spray to your table, waste a ton of medium, and then you need to pick it up with the sponge. You can also easily just do it like this. And if you are careful, this doesn't happen. And then you have this on your sponge. So, orange. And now you can let this dry and layer the next color over the orange. If you do that, you have the orange and the next color layered over it. You can also take the next color now and do that wet and wet, but then you have a different effect. Then it blends into each other. So let's take Mode Lawn. And Joanne asked if she asked, is the splat you did after stenciling in a lighter color? But that is basically the same answer, because that doesn't matter. Do what you want. Because, and that is the same with the wet and wet, I would say. Because here we get some cool wet and wet effects. If I would smash it in the middle here, we would get a total mixture of both of the color. Here it mixes only a little bit, you know, where the green hits the orange, it gets mixed and it gives a cool effect when it's dry. And the same thing for light over dark or dark over light. Depending on where you smash it, it can give this or that effect. Please try that out and experiment with that. And I can't control it, and because of that I don't want to think about that. And that is why I say it really doesn't matter if you let it dry or do it wet and wet. Of course you would get a different effect, but for me the main point is experimenting and try this out and look what happens. And if you think, oh, these are only blobs, then take your tool here and just blow this around. Now you can then also see the mixture you got here. Do I like that? And then, you know, do I want to blow the purple in here, or do I want to blow the purple into the orange? Please decide that spontaneously, because I think then you can, on the one hand, learn the most from this, and you can get the most surprising results. And if you don't like this at all, yeah, then stencil over it, use it as a background, put more colors on here, or brayer over it with like a really dark color like black or so, to get some cool results with more contrast or so, where, you know, you think, oh, bold colors with black, that would work, but these blobs, I don't like them. Brayer over it, or do whatever you want. Do you know what I mean? So because of that, I think, yeah, we shouldn't think about that too much and just do it. But obviously it would give a different reaction if I would let everything dry first, or if I do it wet and wet. Yeah, that is obviously a different result. But too much thinking about that, I think, is not so good. So you could dry this with your heat tool, but I will let this air dry and then we can do the rest. Okay, so it's approximately 2 hours later. I'm back. I nearly lost consciousness a few seconds ago because I nearly deleted my video footage. But that's just a little behind the scenes information for you. Oh my goodness. So this is dry. And here I think I want to go with some scorched timber so that we have some ink here as well. This is the oxide spray. Oh, this sponge, look, this sponge is a little bit destroyed. Can you see that? It's not so fluffy and thick anymore like the others are. That is perhaps also something you want to pay attention to. But even if something like that happens, you know, that it's not the size you want, just do it like this and smash to the same spot again, and then you can make this thing bigger. That is pretty easy. I lost the nozzle. Oh, here. And then by doing this, can you see this resist effect of the gold comes through here, because the golden acrylic paint is now coming to the foreground again, and I really like that in combination with the Scotch timber. And when we then can see the scribbling here in the background, I think that looks really cool. Oh, and what I also perhaps could show you is this was the oxide spray Scotch timber, and if we add that first, we get with the spray which has dye and pigment in it, a pretty opaque layer. Here where we blow it away, it gets a little bit translucent because it's not so much here and there where we have blown it a lot, but it's basically opaque, isn't it? And when we then first add some water to let this oxidize, dry this, and when we then add a spray stain, which is translucent, we can get a really cool effect as well. Blow this around. Oh, that looks pretty cool here as well. You can see this is translucent. Here it mixes up a little bit with the brown because this now reactivates the Scotch timber oxide spray, but when you blow this, you have the color, but it's translucent, and I really like that because you can then still see the scribbling through it, and it's more like a background thing then, you know, this brown thing is somehow in the end for me part of the focal point. And here is like, you know, it's screaming, put a focal point here, or perhaps just a quote here or so. We will talk about focal points in a second. But if I want to have more color in the background, because for example this paper is too boring for me color wise, then I could do it with a spray stain or a distress ink, because that is translucent, and then, you know, you have color but you haven't destroyed the rest here, or covered up the rest here. We can't destroy anything here. Shall we do something like that here as well? No, we will do something different. We will stencil on this and then spray the paste. Let's start with opaque texture paste. This is the one by Ranger and Tim. For the sake of this video, I will apply the paste pretty thin so that it doesn't take too long to dry. But of course you can also play around with different thicknesses, which can give different results. And since we've used the oxide spray underneath, and that would be the same for the spray stain as well, the paste will get tinted by the spray while it's drying. Here, let's take the translucent texture paste, also by Ranger and Tim, and that is something I really enjoy on, especially on oxide mediums, because what this does is that it brings out the colors in a really cool way. Here, the following thing will now happen. When we dry this, it will also pick up some of the colors here, the same like with this paste, but this is on the one hand translucent, and on the other hand it intensifies the colors we already have here. And when the paste turns from milky to the color, then you know it's dry. Tem and Asa, and also some people who messaged me privately, asked, the birds, are they die cuts? and where do you buy all of the cutouts, and where did you get the photos and the moths you've used. So let's go into that. The question about the birds was about these birds here. These are the silhouette birds / love birds by Zizix and Tim Holtz, and these are die cuts. Yes, I've just cut them out from black and other watercolor paper. The flowers you've seen me using for the other tags are also die cuts by Zizix and Tim Holtz. And these photos you've asked about are a digital ephemera pack from my shop. These are called vintage photo strips. This pack has a total of 200 of these little photos, 200 different photos, and you can either cut them and use them separately, or, and that's why this is called vintage photo strips, you could also cut them into strips horizontally or vertically, and then use them as belly bands, for example, or you could also cut 3 and then make a longer tag or so. Yeah, you can cut them like you want them, or cut them and fold them like an accordion and make a little like journaling accordion hidden kind of thingy. Do you know what I mean? And there are really, really different pictures. Also some animals here. The link to this printable is down below in the description box, and I think this boy with the teddy bear is perfect here. And perhaps we can just add the tiniest bit of something. And here, let's try to use one of the moths you have also asked about. These are also from my shop. These are called Moth and Paper Flutter. And in that printable, you have different layers for the moths, and then you can layer them and make a really dimensional moth. There are 3 different versions of the same shape in the printable, which you can then layer so that you have the same size for your layers, but you can obviously also take them and layer different sizes, like so. You could even also print these on printable overhead transparency, for example, to get a translucent moth. That would also work. This butterfly here comes from my butterfly printable. I'm just thinking this orange could work here somehow. Oh, look here. This butterfly and the orange of this butterfly, that could work. These are such happy colors, and you know, then it's like crisscross colorful. And that can make it look cool somehow, perhaps. Oh yes, I like that. Just thinking, this color here, somehow this color talks to me. That is pretty cool. And then what you also could do is you could take some thread or some other like fluffy material, fabric, or you know, perhaps you have some other materials for layering. Just put this behind here for some more interest. And then I also want to add some quotes here. These are the quotes I have left over from making my last journal, which was the Raggedy Turtle Bloom journal. And these quotes come from my Raggedy Turtle Bloom paper collection from the ephemera pack / the kit also has them, because the kit is a combination of the pages and the ephemera pack. And these are the lyrics of the soundtrack of the Raggedy Turtle Bloom paper collection. And I found this here. But when our shadows touched at dusk in golden trembling light. Ooh, I'm so sorry you can't see it. And this is a line from the soundtrack. I think we even take more of the lyrics. We peeked out from our hiding place because I think it looks good when this is there, and then the sentence is also a little longer, which I really like. And these originally were made for the Raggedy Turtle Bloom paper collection, which is obviously turtle themed, but as you could hopefully see, you could take these quotes for other context as well. That doesn't necessarily have to be something turtle themed. Every page we stitch together, I think that fits really well to this, because it's so colorful and like, yeah, like a mixture of everything. And here, what about I found your hand in mine? Because this is so friendship-ish. And then there have been some comments where you said that you wanted to see the finished tags more in detail, and that the videos, those reels and shorts and, you know, TikTok videos and so on, that they have been too fast for you to see the details of the tag. I apologize for that. I totally get you, and I totally understand that, but that was part of the style of the videos. If you have seen those short videos, you have seen they are cut really, really in a fast way, where you can see a lot going on in a really short time. But of course I hear you, and I totally understand that you want to see those in detail. So I have my collection of the tags here, and now I can go through them and show them to you in detail, and you can see every single one of them. I will also post oh my goodness, my box is in the way, I'm so sorry. I will also post photos to my social media, or perhaps when you see this video, the photos are perhaps already online. So you can go to my Instagram or also to my Facebook page, where you can then see the photos. It was so crazy for me when these little videos went through the roof. That was so crazy. This one here surprised me a lot with this pinkish color in the background. And these I left on the background papers. You can here hardly see where the tag is, but that is exactly what I like about these. And how this came out. This we made during a YouTube live. And also this, which I called The Bird and the Pooh. If you know, you know. If you haven't seen that live stream, you can watch the replay. I will put the link to that in the description box of this video as well. There you can see why this looks like it looks and how this came to life. Then I have this, where I also experimented with some die-cut letters, which I have glued on here. And this is made also with some mica spray, additionally to the oxide spray. And the black is just some black acrylic paint. And on the background, I had already this stenciling here. Perhaps you remember that from one of my What If videos. This one here I made in a TikTok live stream. I really like this, how that came out. Also this one, but I have to say this background paper is not from this tag, as you probably can tell. I don't know what happened here, but you know, it's not the paper which belongs to this tag. And then I have both of these, which I made a little differently. I think when you see this video, then the reel about these tags is also already on my Instagram. Please check that out. At the moment, I have no idea when I will post what, because I'm just, you know, making content and trying to keep up with all of your messages. But this I made a little differently than the others. That's also why I have two of these tags instead of only one. This here, I think also came to life in a TikTok stream, if I'm not mistaken. And this, don't be confused, this was from my TikTok stream, and this is the amount of the likes I got there, 51.8k likes. I'm really still a little bit speechless about that, and I did this during the live stream, so that is why this paper looks a little bit different than the others. And then there was a comment from Jackie. She said, "You waste so much." And she probably means the medium which comes to these papers here, which I have under my tags. But for me, it's not a waste of medium, because when I take these off, I have the perfect collage fodder. These little areas here look so interesting. Look, for example, this little blob here. Take a button or something else, put that on there, tear that off, and then you have the perfect little piece for a collage. Or what you also could do is you could tear this and then use the pieces here for making another tag. I mean, imagine you tear this or cut this into strips or rectangles or whatever, put that to another tag, then you have a second piece which matches the colors of this perfectly. So for me, this is not a waste of medium, because I will not throw away these papers. But perhaps that was not so clear in the videos I've shown you. Perhaps that was not understandable enough. So yeah, perhaps you want to leave a comment how you see that. Is that waste of medium for you, or would you consider this collage fodder, or what would you do with something like this? I see that a little different, because when I also when I see this, I imagine, for example, some bold stamping on here, and then I have the perfect piece for my next collage. But what I'm missing here are some splatters. But I really think we could add some splatters here. Perhaps here not so much, but on the others, I mean, here we have the splatters in the background. That already looks really cool. But what about some black splatters on this? And while I'm making these splatters, I want to send a really warm greeting to George. George is on Facebook. He's calling himself Karate George. Karate George? I think so. I think that's an English word. And he left a comment on Facebook which said faux art. Just 2 words, faux art. George, I want to thank you very much for this comment, because that was a really, really great reminder to thank this wonderful community we have here on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, and the community I could build over the years on my different social media channels is the most amazing community in this world. And you have given me a really, really wonderful reminder with your comment that positivity and nice words could make the world so much better, and that it's so much worth to think about how many people are out there leaving nice comments, taking the time to watch my videos and listen to me and say, oh, I learned something from you. And I really, really want to thank you, George, for this comment, because that gives me the chance to say a really huge thank you to my community here and on the other platforms. I really appreciate that you all are here and that you are enjoying my videos and that you make this whole thing here possible, because without you and without you letting these videos go viral, this whole thing wouldn't be possible. And you make it possible that I can do what I love, that I can really do my dream job. And George reminded me that I wanted to again thank you for that and say that really, really clearly here. So I'm really hoping that you could find some inspiration in this video, and I'm hoping that I could answer all of your questions. If there are questions left about this technique, or obviously also about anything else, please feel free to leave a comment. And perhaps we also want to use George's comment to spread a little bit of love around other people's channels by leaving some comments or some thumbs up or sharing the videos the other people share with our friends or post them in our stories and so on, to make this social media place a little bit, you know, like a better place, even if it's a really great place already. But I think we can do a lot for other creators and people who share what they have created on social media by commenting and sharing and so on. I don't want to say that you don't do that, please don't get me wrong, but perhaps we can just use his comment as a little reminder that we can do things without even the need of spending money or so, because, you know, sharing something or commenting on a video or so, that's for free, and it only takes a little bit of your time, which is also obviously something important, but you don't even have to spend money to be supportive, and I think we should just do that and spread some love. So that's it for today. See you the next time, and have a very great and creative day, and perhaps you want to have some fun with this technique. See you!